What's going on, everybody? Just wanted to take a minute to step away from editing my PlayStation roster, give my eyes a break here for a second. Yes, it's coming. Yes, I promised it by tomorrow. I'm 11 teams through, trying to keep up with Xbox roster and the PlayStation roster and real life. Doing my best here, guys. No promises, but I mean, you don't want to play with this roster right now anyway because free agency is happening. As soon as you start your franchise, another guy's going to get signed, and you're going to lose a little realism, so you're going to want to wait anyway. And then you've noticed the rebuilds have slowed down. I put too much on my plate, guys, and I'm sorry. I promised you rebuilds for every team. That's not going to happen. I just don't have time for that. If you want to see your team, do the Patreon, head over, and I will make sure I do your team, but I just can't promise it for every single team. I put too much on my plate, and I'm not going to get there. So I just wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about today in the NFL. It was a fun day. I didn't want it to go undiscussed. Just going to run through kind of the bigger signings here. Obviously, Allen Robinson, a big one. A lot of these were big signings. Some of them, I think, I have more different takes than you're going to hear though. Allen Robinson, really nothing bad or good to say about that. It just kind of is what it is. But let's talk, how about Kirk Cousins here for the Vikings. Signs the 3-year, first ever fully guaranteed contract. Really interesting there. Definitely a great signing. This was the best option that they could have had going into next year. I think it cripples them a little bit in the future, but this really does put them right up there. Super Bowl contenders going into next year. And, you know, we'll see within that division. Obviously, the Packers signing Jimmy Graham, getting off their free agency here, looking to maybe be a little more aggressive this year. Definitely going to need more help at corner, obviously, because they traded away Demarius Randall, who was their highest rated corner here. Devon House actually isn't on the docket for next year as of right now. So they have work to do with this cornerback situation. As you can see, it's ugly. But a good start there for the Packers. That NFC North is going to be really, really competitive. Do we start to see kind of an arms race between the Packers and the Vikings here in the next couple days? Pretty recently here, before I started filming, Malcom Butler heads to Tennessee. Way too much money, in my opinion. $12 million a year for 5 years. I think he's a good cornerback too, but that is cornerback one money. They have a decent amount of cap space, so it might not hurt them, but down the road, 3 years from now, we could look back on that as being a really bad contract, and I don't think we're ever really going to look at that as being a great contract. I just don't think he has the ceiling. I think we've already seen the best of Malcom Butler. He's 28 years old, giving him that 5-year deal there at $12 million a year. That's pretty crazy. Sammy Watkins goes to the Chiefs. That's kind of a so-so signing for me. Basically just trying to do whatever they can to make Patrick Mahomes good. Makes sense. A lot of receivers getting crazy, crazy money. The Redskins signing Paul Richardson here, who I have as a 73 overall. They gave him a 5-year deal, $40 million. Basically the same thing Robert Woods got. I don't think he's the receiver Robert Woods is, but even more shocking to me was Albert Wilson. Actually, I don't know if that's more shocking or not. I think Albert Wilson, we at least know what he is, but that's a wide receiver 3 or a 4. The Dolphins, just this entire offseason, man, it's like a 9-year-old playing Madden who inhaled the extra cocaine that was left in the vents from that offensive line coach. Like, that is how crazy this offseason's been for the Dolphins. Nothing they've done makes sense. They cut Ndamukong Suh. This receiving situation, I mean, they signed Danny Amendola this morning for a bunch of money. I just don't get it. Like, they need offensive line help. They're not doing anything to address that. Defensively, the one thing they do have is edge rushers, and they go out and get Robert Quinn for not a lot, but they got to pay him. After they just paid Andre Branch a bunch of money last offseason, it's just a mess here in Miami. I don't get what they're doing. Do they think they're going to capitalize on a window like with Tannehill in this roster? No way in hell. It just doesn't make any sense. Let's see, what else do we have here? The Broncos signed Case Keenum today. That I think was a terrible signing. He's just a slight step up from Trevor Siemian, as you can see based on my ratings here. I mean, you're paying him now $20 million for like 2 years. Why? Like, you need O-line first, and at best, Case Keenum can be what Trevor Siemian is. Like, I think these guys are very similar. I think Case is smarter, but I just don't get that one, especially after you trade away Talib. It's kind of complicated. I think they need to just probably restart. I don't see them really making a big push, especially with Case Keenum. One quarterback signing I really liked was actually Sam Bradford. And not that I'm necessarily high on Bradford or think that he's going to be great this year or anything. I do think he's a good quarterback when healthy. He's top 20 or so. Really accurate, good anticipation thrower. Obviously, the injury concerns. And the reason I like this signing is that if he's healthy, this is an Arizona team that won 8 games last year without a quarterback, without David Johnson. And they still have some pieces on defense, so I think they're going to be competitive, especially with Sam Bradford, even without him. But if he's healthy, we're talking about a playoff team, and this is a great move. It's just a one-year deal. Basically, it is no risk. And if he gets hurt, then you just kind of lose out, and you start looking for the future. That was a really good signing, I thought, especially after all the other quarterbacks had already been signed. You had the Jaguars signed, Dante Moncrief, whatever. He's the 4th best receiver on this team, I think. They brought back Marquise Lee, which I think was good. The Jets being pretty active today as well, so they're going to bring in Teddy Bridgewater. Now, this is kind of actually similar, if you want to think about it this way, to the Mike Glennon situation for the Jets. Maybe they go get a quarterback to compete with Teddy, and the details haven't come out, but I imagine that's a 3-year deal, pretty front-loaded, and if he's not successful in the first year, they can kind of get out of it. I think it's a pretty similar situation, obviously very different players, but then they also brought in Tremaine Johnson for a bunch of money. I think that's fine. They're going to let Claiborne go, I would assume, here. So the Jets trying to put together a team in a bad AFC. Ravens signed John Brown. Whatever, I'm not a John Brown guy. I never really have been. And then I guess the last move I'll kind of talk about here, and I just noticed I haven't done it on my roster here. I'm going to have to do that. But Andrew Norwell kind of bailed on the Giants and is heading to the Jags. And I love this move. I ripped on the Giants last year coming off of a defensive first team. That offense was terrible because that offensive line was so bad. I think that's a pretty similar situation with Jacksonville here. They let Allen Robinson go, and a lot of people thought that was stupid, but that opened up the money to bring in this beast, Andrew Norwell, and they know what they want to do. They want to run the ball. They got Fournette. They want to have that identity on offense, limit what their quarterback has to do, and I just love that signing. I think Andrew Norwell is way more valuable on this Jags team than Allen Robinson. Great move by the Jags. Still don't know if I'm buying them to make the playoffs next year. We'll see. We will see. I think that division is going to be much better next year with the Titans, Texans, and Colts all kind of getting healthy, coming back, new coach, all that. But just a little snapshot of free agency today. Hoping to get that PlayStation roster done as soon as possible. And if you guys want to see a rebuild, head over to Patreon and let me know what team you want to see. So cheers, everyone. We'll see you next time.